So for this project, you're going to be choosing a design style that you're interested in, and you're going to redesign an album cover utilizing that style. So finding some inspiration from the past will really help you make more modern looking things. Like for example, contemporary design is inspired by the past all the time. So with this Lana Del Rey album, very, very heavily influenced by the Art Deco piece, which ties into the fact that her song was on the Great Gatsby soundtrack, which came out around the Art Deco period. A John Mayer album that came out is very heavily, heavily referencing the old Victorian style of design, where there was not very many straight lines, super ornamental, very symmetrical. And even a band that I like called Franz Ferdinand, very heavily influenced by early modern design. This is Russian constructivism. And you can see it is a direct callback to this particular style. So for your assignment, you're going to be analyzing and then analyzing the album cover that you want to use and the style that you want to put it in, and then create a new interpretation of that album cover. So, for example, here's a Linkin Park album cover. Looking at this was in the 2000s. It's got this kind of grungy post millennium effect going on. The stencil, the distressed font, and then here it is reinterpreted using Art Deco. And with Art Deco, it's much more focused on singular image, very clean lines, diagonals. It's really a more simplified version of stuff, or pushing it even more on the early modern design, like a constructivist version. Diagonal lines, simplified color palette, strong, bold letters, or pushing it even further in the 90s to 2000s using a grunge effect, really overlapping a ton of photographs, setting up a grunge texture and everything. So here's another example. It's Kendrick Lamar's album. So using the grunge style, modifying the type, splitting things up, adding textures in there, having things off-centered really hits some of that grunge era style. Or in the 70s, there's a certain style there with bigger, bolder letters, simplified photography. So that's an example. So I don't know why the last one was blank, but here's another one that's more of a postmodern. It's utilizing kind of a collage style effect, some double exposure things, and applying the almost like a futurism style with the diagonal dynamic lines that are happening. You can even see with something simple here. I'm going to go through a series of quick before and afters. Here's the original album cover. Here is one utilizing the Art Nouveau style with the ornamental outlines that focus on one female. You got the Arctic Monkeys album, AM, reinterpreted in the psychedelic style. Metallica's Master of Puppets, reinterpreted in the mid-century American kitsch style, where it's more flat objects, jagged lines, simplification. Paramore's album already had kind of an 80s Memphis aesthetic going on, but pushing it even further by really focusing more on the patterns and the colors. Doing Ariana Grande's album, doing this more as a 90s postmodern style. Blondie's Parallel Lines, done as a flat design. Smashing Pumpkins' Melancholy and Infinite Sadness, done using the Swiss International Topography style. We've got Queen's classic album for Bohemian Rhapsody, done as an Art Nouveau. Haim's Something to Tell You, redesigned as if it came out in the 70s. Doing a Supertramp Breakfast in America, redone as, I guess it didn't animate, redone as an American kitsch. Pantera's redone in the Memphis 80s style. G-Eazy's album redone using postmodernism with a touch of collage. Megadeth's Rust in Peace redone in the 50s American kitsch. So you're going to be really absorbing and doing a deep dive into what makes that design style recognizable and I've got a whole series of things that you're going to fill out, but this is the basic overview. You're going to choose several album covers, 3 album covers to possibly redesign. You're only going to have to do one, but I want you to analyze and really consider 3 because one might fit better in the style after you've done the deep dive. What you're going to do is you're going to watch some of the videos that I've put together and read some of the articles, and you'll take notes. From that, you'll be putting all of that into the planning sheet and analyzing what those key elements are in that style with visual examples. Then you're going to sketch out 3 to 4 thumbnails of possible layout to use for your design, and I will sign you off on the layout then. Then you'll actually start using the computer to make the design as a 10-inch by 10-inch album cover. You can use Photoshop, InDesign, or Illustrator, or all 3, or any combination of those. Just make sure that if you are going to be using the album cover, make sure that if you're going to be using Photoshop, make sure that it's 300 dots per inch. Now, as far as finding the other reference sheets and things, I do have right here the planning document. This planning document, you're going to start first with insert the album cover of the 3 albums that you think you might want to consider doing. What is the artist name and the album name? What are like 3 words that you have for how you'd use to describe this album? There's no right or wrong with that. It's your own personal feelings. And then be specific. Tell me exactly, why'd you pick this album? What is it about this album that speaks to you? What is it? Why is this interesting? And you'll repeat that for the 3 albums. Then what you'll do is you're going to decide what style you're going to research. And the way you can check that is right here. When you go to this design history and styles link, we got a lot of stuff that's in here. I have an entire presentation that's set up here as a PDF. It's this thing right here. It introduces you to these eras of design, gives you a nice timeline, gives you some examples, as well as tells you some of the key elements or characteristics within that style for each one of these design styles. So you want to take a look through this, and then once you've decided, hey, I like this particular effect, awesome. Then what you're going to do is you're going to come here, and I have this really long table set up. So if you decide I'm going to do Art Nouveau, so within Art Nouveau, I have a short explanation of what Art Nouveau is. I've got some videos for you to watch, and you'll take notes inside of the planning sheet for that. You'll put right here, this is where you'll type your notes. And then you'll read the articles that I have posted here and take notes on those and put those notes right here. Then you're going to analyze those results. So you're going to pick 3 or 4 main characteristics to look at. And maybe it's shape or color or font, and you'll explain what that is, and you'll put in 3 to 4 photos that are examples from that era that showcase that characteristic. This deep dive analysis is going to be what's going to make your final design most successful. So it's okay if you spend a couple days getting all of this stuff set up before you actually start building your album cover. You're then going to sketch out a couple thumbnails, 3 to 4 possible layout ideas, and then call me over and I'll give you some feedback and I'll sign you off for that. And that is the beginning portion of the graphic design album cover redesign.